I had always respected her privacy. We had that unspoken agreement between us, the understanding that we both needed our space, that trust didn't require constant checking. But that afternoon, something about the way she had left her laptop on the table, open, unattended, tugged at me. My curiosity got the better of me, and I sat down. She was out of the room, and I told myself that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just needed to find a file for a work project. But when I opened the screen and the file directory stared back at me, I didn't see what I expected. There, at the top of her folders, was one labeled Memories. It stood out, almost daring me to click it. I hesitated for a moment. Should I? Should I respect the boundary that had always existed between us? But I didn't. I clicked. The folder opened, revealing a collection of photos, videos, and documents, all carefully organized. But as I scrolled through, the gut punch hit me. None of the photos were of me. I blinked, rubbing my eyes, thinking I had missed something. But no, each one was a reminder of someone else. Someone from her past. There were pictures of her at concerts, photos with friends, old vacations, and even a video, a grainy clip of her laughing beside a man I didn't recognize. It was too much. Too personal. But the real sting came from knowing that I wasn't in any of them. I wasn't angry. Not at first. I just couldn't understand. I had known she'd had relationships before me, and I'd never thought to question what she kept of them. I'd always assumed she had moved on. But this? This felt different. The folder didn't just hold memories, it held a past that I was entirely excluded from. It wasn't just about pictures. It was the quiet recognition that no matter how close we were, there were parts of her life that would always be out of reach, locked away in corners I wasn't meant to find. I shut the laptop quickly, feeling the weight of the unspoken words between us already building. She had come back into the room unnoticed, and there she was, standing behind me. Her eyes flickered to the screen, then to me, and in that second, I knew she knew I had seen it. "You looked at it," she said softly, her voice quiet but laden with the weight of something I couldn't place. I didn't answer right away. What could I say? "I'm sorry," felt too shallow. "I didn't mean to invade your privacy," felt like an excuse, and I didn't want to offer one. The truth was that I hadn't expected it to affect me this much. I had always assumed she had moved on from the past, that I had replaced it. But seeing that folder, seeing all the pieces of her that didn't have room for me, it was like a jolt to the chest. "You don't have to apologize," she said after a long pause. "I knew one day you'd see it. It's part of me, too, whether I like it or not." Her words hit harder than I expected, and I turned to face her fully for the first time since I'd found the folder. She was standing so still, like she was holding herself together, but there was something in her eyes that made my chest tighten. Regret? Guilt? Or maybe it was something deeper, something I wasn't sure I had a right to understand. "I didn't want you to see that," she continued, her voice shaking just slightly. "It's just memories. It's not about him. It's not about anything I've left behind. I don't keep them to hold on to the past. I keep them because they are part of me. But I don't want them to define us." I stood there, unsure of what to say. "Then why keep them?" I finally asked, the question leaving my lips before I had the chance to second-guess it. "Why keep a part of your past so present?" Her lips pressed together in thought, and she sighed, clearly struggling to find the right words. "I don't know. I guess I thought I could keep it all separate. That the past wouldn't touch what we were building. But I can't always control how things get tangled up." I nodded, feeling a sinking feeling in my stomach. "I don't know how to handle that," I admitted. "I don't know how to be part of your present if your past is always here, too." She moved toward me then, her steps slow, her hand reaching for mine. When I didn't pull away, she gently squeezed it. "I'm not trying to hide anything from you. But I'm not sure how to let go of everything, either. How do you just erase the people who were once important? How do you make it all fit together?" Her voice cracked at the end, and I felt the weight of her words, the vulnerability behind them. She wasn't just talking about a man she used to be with. She was talking about herself. About who she had been and how those pieces of her life didn't just disappear when she met me. "I don't want to be second place to something I can't compete with," I said, the words coming out sharper than I meant them to. "I don't want to be part of a life that's still half living in the past." "I'm not living in the past," she said quickly. "I swear to you, I'm here. I'm with you. But the past still exists inside me, and I can't just erase it." "I don't want you to erase it," I said, my voice softening. "I just want to understand why I wasn't even in the picture. Why I wasn't part of your memories. Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, or something deeper, but she didn't look away. She didn't run. Instead, she sat beside me, her hand still resting in mine. I never meant to make you feel like you didn't matter, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You do matter. You mean everything to me. But I don't know how to show you that when I'm still trying to piece together the fragments of who I am, who I was, and who I'm becoming. I stared at her for a long moment, the weight of her words sinking in. I wanted to reach out, to close the space between us, but the distance between us now wasn't just physical. It was emotional, a gap between what I thought we were and the reality of what she was still holding on to. I need time, she said quietly, breaking the silence. I need time to figure out how to make space for us without carrying the weight of the past. But I need you to understand that the past won't just disappear. And I need you to decide if you're okay with that. I didn't know how to answer her, not yet. The truth was, I wasn't sure if I could accept it. I didn't know if I was okay with the idea of sharing her with someone who wasn't me, who never would be. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something important. Maybe I didn't need to be everything to her. I just needed to know if I was enough for her to choose now. But that wasn't a question I could answer tonight. The days that followed that conversation were a quiet kind of tension. We still lived together, moved through the motions of everyday life, but something fundamental had shifted between us. The air was thick with the unspoken things, the things I had seen but hadn't fully processed, the things she hadn't said but I could feel in every glance, in every small action. I couldn't help but replay her words in my head, over and over again. I need time. It echoed in my mind, louder than anything else, because that's all I had now. Time. I had to give it to her, even though I wasn't sure how much time I could give before I started to wonder if I had a future in this relationship at all. I watched her, but not in a way that was obsessive or controlling. It wasn't like I was trying to figure out where she was going when she left the house, or who she was talking to when her phone buzzed at dinner. No, this was more subtle. It was in the small moments. In the way she brushed her hair back and stared at herself in the mirror a little too long, as if she was searching for something. In the way she closed the laptop before I could see the screen, and how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. We weren't the same anymore. I knew it. She knew it. But every night, when we lay in bed together, I would turn over, unsure whether to say something, unsure whether she was still with me in the same way. Her presence beside me was warm, but it felt distant, almost hollow, like there was something else there that I couldn't touch. It was like trying to hold onto water, you could feel it slipping between your fingers, but no matter how tight you gripped, it would always get away from you. That night, as I lay beside her, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, I made a decision. I had to know. I couldn't keep living like this, caught between the past and the present. I needed to hear it from her, to understand where I stood, not in a way that was cruel or accusatory, but in a way that could help me make sense of all the uncertainty that had been consuming me. I waited until she stirred beside me, shifting slightly in her sleep, her fingers brushing against my arm. The softest of touches, but enough to make my heart skip a beat. I didn't want to wake her, but the silence between us felt unbearable. I had to ask. Hey, I whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. She shifted again, her eyes fluttering open, the sleepiness still thick in her voice. Him? I hesitated. I didn't want to ruin the quiet, the peace that had been hanging over us, but I had no choice. Can we talk? I asked, my voice steady but softer than usual. Her gaze sharpened slightly, her body tensing. She rolled over onto her side, propping herself up on her elbow. The dim light from the street outside illuminated the faint lines of her face, the exhaustion in her eyes. About what? About us, I said simply, my heart pounding. I could feel the weight of the words before I even said them. She sighed, the weariness in her features deepening. I thought we already talked. We did, I said quickly, trying to clarify, but I don't think I really understood. She stayed silent for a long moment, her hand reaching for mine, her fingers skimming over mine with hesitant tenderness. It was a soft, careful touch, almost like she was trying to gauge my mood, to test the waters. What do you mean? I don't know, I began, unsure of how to frame it. I don't know how to keep doing this when there's still a part of you that's not with me. When there's something I don't know, something you're not telling me. I need to know if you're really here. With me. She swallowed hard, her lips trembling slightly as she closed her eyes for a moment. The vulnerability in her expression was almost painful. I am here, she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying the lie. She wasn't. Not entirely. I don't feel it, I said softly, hating the truth of those words, but knowing they needed to be said. I feel like I'm waiting for something that might never come. I need to know where I stand, because right now, it doesn't feel like I'm part of the equation. She pulled her hand away, sitting up straight in bed, her gaze drifting away from me as she stared into the dark. You don't understand, she said quietly. I'm not trying to hold on to the past. I'm not trying to keep you in the dark. It's just hard. It's hard to let go of something that was so real. To know that a part of me can't just be erased. I can't just wake up one day and forget about him, forget about everything we shared. But that doesn't mean I don't want you. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But you're still holding on to it, I said gently. That's the problem. You want me to be the one, but you're not ready to choose me. Not fully. I am choosing you, she whispered, her voice trembling as she wrapped her arms around herself, hugging tightly. But I'm also trying to choose myself. And I don't know how to do that without letting go of something that's been with me for so long. I don't know how to reconcile the two parts of me. I wanted to reach for her, to hold her and promise her that we could work through it, that I could wait, that we could find a way forward. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could keep doing this. Keep living in the limbo of uncertainty, unsure of whether I was truly her choice or just a part of her journey. I don't want to keep waiting for you to choose me, I said quietly, the pain of the words sinking deep into my chest. I need to know that you're choosing us now. Not the past. Not the memories. Just us. She sat still for a long time, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us, thick and heavy. I could hear the quiet hum of the city outside, the only sound in the room. Finally, she turned to face me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite decipher. I don't know how to make that decision yet, she said softly, her voice low. I want to, I do. But I need more time. I need time to be sure. I nodded slowly, the knot in my chest tightening. I don't think I can wait much longer. Her gaze softened, her expression pained. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. But I can't promise anything right now. I need time to figure out how to be who I am without the past always shadowing me. And there it was. The truth. She wasn't ready to fully let go of what had come before me. She wasn't ready to be all in. She was still torn, still holding on to something that wasn't here anymore. And as much as I loved her, I didn't know how long I could keep giving her the space to figure it out. Not when it was breaking me a little more every day. The silence between us grew longer, and I realized, maybe for the first time, that I couldn't make her choose. She had to do it herself. I understand, I said quietly, the words bitter on my tongue. But I can't keep living in the shadows. I need to know you're with me, not with him. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and for a moment, I wanted to reach out and hold her. But I knew I couldn't. Not anymore. I'm sorry, she whispered. I just need more time. And so, I lay there, in the silence of the night, knowing that time wasn't something I had much of left. The days bled into one another, a haze of confusion and hope. We were still living in the same space, still sharing moments, but nothing felt the same. I watched her with the quiet intensity of someone who was holding their breath, afraid that even a single exhale would push us further apart. She had asked for time, and I had given it to her. But the more I gave, the more I wondered how much time I had left before I started to lose myself. She had said she loved me. She had said she was choosing me, but the actions, the little things, the way she looked at her phone more often, the way she paused before answering questions, told me otherwise. There was a wall between us, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could pretend it didn't exist. It wasn't just her. It was me too. I kept thinking about what I had found on her laptop, those pictures, that folder titled Memories. They hadn't left me. Each time I closed my eyes, I could still see the photos, the faces, the moments I wasn't a part of. It wasn't even the fact that they were there, it was the realization that, no matter how close I got to her, I wasn't in those memories. She had kept them, tucked them away, while I had been building something with her, something I thought was real. And maybe it was. But it also felt like I was sharing space in a room with someone who was still holding on to the past. It wasn't just about the man who had come before me. It was about the pieces of her I didn't have access to, the ones that had already been claimed by someone else. I had spent so many nights staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was on the edge of something that could either pull me closer or tear me apart. Every time she'd touch me, every time she'd pull me in for a brief hug or a kiss, it felt like a fleeting comfort, like a piece of her that I could never hold long enough to make it real. There was always that moment when she'd pull away, not completely, but enough that I could feel the distance. Enough that I could feel the space she was still reserving for the past. And then one afternoon, it all came crashing down. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I heard her phone buzz on the kitchen counter. She had left it there while she went to the bathroom, and I, for just a second, allowed myself the temptation to glance at the screen. I didn't want to. I wasn't the type of person to invade someone's privacy, but the knot in my stomach had gotten tighter, and I couldn't ignore it. The notification popped up, "I miss you. Hope we can talk soon." My heart sank into my stomach. The message was from him. For a moment, I froze. I couldn't even breathe, couldn't even think. I had seen his name before in passing conversations, but this felt different. This wasn't just a casual message. This was a reminder. A reminder that no matter what I thought I was building with her, there were still pieces of her past that she wasn't ready to let go of. And the hardest part was realizing that I wasn't part of that past. I wasn't even close to being in it. I wasn't someone she wanted to keep around in that way. I snapped my phone off quickly, trying to keep my breathing steady, trying to stay calm. But I couldn't. I was unraveling, piece by piece. The image of that message, of his name, of the words, of the history that still lingered between them, felt like an anchor in my chest, dragging me under. She came back into the room a few minutes later, and I could barely look at her. I was afraid that if I did, the questions would spill out of me before I could stop them. I didn't want to ask, didn't want to hear the truth that I was terrified of. But I had to. I had to. What was that message? I asked, my voice sounding hollow, like I was asking someone else's question. It didn't feel like it was coming from me. She stopped in her tracks, a look of surprise flashing across her face. She had caught on to the shift in my tone immediately, and I could see the hesitation in her eyes. "What message?" she asked, her voice too casual, too practiced. "The one on your phone," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "The one from him." Her eyes widened, and I could see her throat tighten, as though she was preparing herself for something she didn't want to face. I didn't mean for you to see that," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's nothing, just a friend from the past. We've been talking." I stood up, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "How much longer are we going to pretend that everything's fine? That you don't still have a hold on this person? On him?" She flinched, her face flushing with a mix of guilt and frustration. "I don't have a hold on him," she said, her voice sharp now, defensive. "We've been friends for years, and I can't just erase that. We're talking because it's been a part of my life for so long, and I didn't want to lose that connection." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her how long she thought she could keep pretending that I wasn't standing right there, that this wasn't tearing me apart. But the words wouldn't come. I just stood there, frozen in the tension that filled the room. "I don't understand," I said softly, my voice cracking. "I don't understand why you can't just choose me, choose us. Why is it so hard for you to let go of what's already gone?" She took a step toward me, her hands shaking slightly as she reached for mine. "I am choosing you," she said, but her eyes were distant, her voice trembling. "I am. But I can't just forget about everything that came before. You don't get to just erase my past, and you don't get to tell me how to feel about it." The words stung, but they were true. I couldn't tell her how to feel, couldn't tell her how to heal. I could only ask her to choose me. But she wasn't ready. "You have to decide," I said, feeling the weight of it pressed down on me. "You have to decide if you're ready to be with me, to move forward with me. Or if you're still tied to him. Because I can't keep waiting for you to choose." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might say something, might give me the answer I so desperately wanted. But she just stood there, staring at me, her lips trembling as though she were caught between two worlds. "I don't know what to do anymore," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to let go." And that was it. The final truth. She wasn't ready to let go of him, not in the way I needed her to. I wasn't sure if I could keep waiting, if I could keep giving her pieces of myself while she kept holding on to something else. And for the first time, I realized that maybe I wasn't enough for her to choose now. Maybe I never would be. I don't know how long we stood there, in that painful silence. My heart was racing, my thoughts were scattered, but in the back of my mind, something clear was settling in, the truth I had been avoiding. She wasn't ready. Not for me, not for us, and maybe not even for herself. And as much as it hurt to admit it, I couldn't keep holding on, couldn't keep waiting for her to choose me when she still wasn't sure. "I think we need some time apart," I said, my voice quiet but firm, as if I were speaking to someone else, someone who wasn't me. Her face crumpled. It was like the last thread of hope I had been clinging to was being severed, slowly and painfully. "Please, don't," she whispered, her hand reaching for mine again, but this time, I pulled back. "I can't do this anymore," I said, the words sounding so much harder to say than I had expected. "I can't keep trying when you're still holding on to something else. I can't keep pretending that I'm not second to someone who isn't even here anymore." She took a step back, her hand still reaching for me, but this time, it was a gesture of desperation, not a plea for understanding. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, tears streaming down her face now. "I didn't mean for you to feel like this." I closed my eyes, not able to watch her fall apart, knowing that part of me was shattering too. "It's not about what you meant," I said, swallowing hard. "It's about what's happening now. And I need to know you're fully with me, or I can't keep doing this. I can't keep waiting for something that's not here." She stood there, silent, looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time, as if she had been blind to my pain, blind to the way I had been holding myself together just to keep us from falling apart. "I can't promise you that," she said finally, her voice breaking. "I can't promise you that I can let go of him, not yet. I can't promise you that I'll be the person you want me to be right now." And there it was. The one thing I had feared. The realization that no matter how much I wanted to be with her, no matter how much I loved her, I couldn't change her heart, couldn't force her to be where she wasn't. I wasn't enough. Not yet. Not when she was still torn between her past and her present. The pain of that truth hit me like a tidal wave. It felt like a wound that was deep and raw, one that wasn't going to heal overnight. I wanted to reach out and tell her that I could wait for as long as it took, but I knew I couldn't. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself, not when she wasn't sure, not when I was the one left questioning my place in her life. "I need to go," I said quietly, turning away before she could say anything else. I couldn't stay there, not in the same space where everything we had built seemed to be collapsing. I couldn't look at her and pretend I wasn't dying inside, not when the truth was clear and undeniable. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't say anything more. She just stood there, watching me leave, and I could feel her gaze burning into my back. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I did, I might never be able to walk away. I don't remember how long I drove. The streets blurred as I drove aimlessly, not knowing where I was going, not sure what I was trying to escape from. But in the back of my mind, I knew. I knew that I had made the right choice, even if it didn't feel right. I had to walk away. I had to let her figure things out on her own, even if that meant that it wasn't with me. I pulled over at a small park, not far from the apartment we had shared. The sky was beginning to darken, and the faint outline of the stars was beginning to appear in the night sky. I sat in the car, the engine still running, the radio quiet in the background. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. All I felt was an overwhelming emptiness, the kind that comes when you've invested so much of yourself into something, only to realize it isn't enough. She had been my everything. And for a while, I had been hers. Or so I thought. But as the days wore on, as I looked at the texts, the photos, the memories that weren't mine, I realized I had never really been enough. And maybe it wasn't about me. Maybe it was about her needing to reconcile parts of herself that I couldn't reach, parts of her that weren't meant for me. I could feel the tears welling up, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Not until I was alone, in the quiet, when I could let the pain wash over me without any judgment. After a while, I turned the car off. I knew I needed to go back, to face the aftermath of what I had just done. But I wasn't sure what I would find when I did. I wasn't sure if she would be waiting for me, or if she had already made her decision. I didn't know if it even mattered anymore. I knew that I couldn't keep living like this, caught between her past and her present. I needed to let go. I needed to move on, even if it meant walking away from the person I thought I was supposed to be with. As I drove back, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. And though it hurt more than anything I'd ever felt, I understood now that sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, people need more than what you can give, and you have to let them go. And maybe, just maybe, one day, we would find our way back to each other. But for now, I had to walk away. And that was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do.